Good afternoon, welcome to Rundlii Gaming. We're going to be doing a video on the game Conflict of Plants. This one is a game that was worked on by Armando. It is not currently picked up by a specific company, but it is something that they worked on quite a bit. And this is going to be how to play this particular game. The components themselves are still kind of in earlier stages. This is not actually the final product as far as that goes. So it is something that may change quite a bit later as well. So that is something to take into consideration. The board itself is going to start off with your center tile. In this case, it's going to specify that there's a start area here and a finish area, and you'll see a bunch of arrows going around. We'll explain what this represents as well. We're going to be showing you a 2-player game, but I'll also show you the difference between 2-player and 3-player. So first off, you're going to take the starter tiles. The starter tiles have a slightly different color to them, where the number itself is a little bit, it's not quite as dark, whereas the tiles that are for later are a little bit darker as well. But you're going to randomly choose 6 tiles to start out with. So let's go ahead and lay these out. Alright, so we have a tropical region, another tropical region, a forest region, a polar region, a marsh region, and another forest region. After you set up the main area here, this is mostly on a 2-player setup, you're going to take the white circles here. There's going to be one without anything on the back of it. It's just white on the back of it. For that one, we're going to go ahead and flip it over, and we're going to put it on the start corner of this tile here. These ones, however, there are 9 total of these white circles that we have of this particular type. You're going to randomly choose 5 others out of the 8 to put in the other corners. So we'll go ahead and place these down. And then lastly, we're going to go and look at the ones with the black backs. Again, these may change a little bit after production of it. At this point, we're going to drop these at the outer edges here. And these are going to represent a couple different things, but we're going to go over that in a little bit better detail very shortly here. So this is the basic setup for the 2-player mode. The last 3 of these grass icons that we did not use, we're going to set those aside. You do not actually look at those. You can generally just put them back in the box or put them in one of the bags that you might have. But you're not allowed to actually see what those 3 are, because that could actually give you a little more information as far as what's available on these 6 here. Because what the inside 6 here are for is they basically act as a turn counter, as well as they do modify the board slightly. Now, they don't modify the board itself, but they do modify what kind of numbers you might have in these tiles here. So this is a 2-player setup. The only difference between the 2-player setup and the 3-player setup, as far as the board goes, is you would drop 3 more tiles on a 3 or 4-player game. So let's say if we played a 3-player game, the board's going to look something like this. If you play a 2-player game, you get rid of a couple of those tiles, and this would be a 2-player game. So we're going to be showing an actual 2-player game as compared to a 3 to 4. The other difference with a 3 to 4 player versus a 2-player game is there will be a difference of 5 cubes. In a 2-player game, you're going to have 35. Sorry, you're going to have the 30 cubes. So each player will have 30 cubes if you're playing a 2-player game. It's actually going to be 31, but what you actually can use is 30, because you're also going to use one of those cubes for this scoreboard here. So 30 for each of them. If you played a 3 to 4 player game, you'll actually add in these 5 cubes, which would actually bring you up to 35, or 36 if you count the scoring cube as well. So after we have the board set up itself, You're also going to get some of these tokens here. You're actually going to shuffle these up really well, just to make sure that you have it randomized a little bit. You can kind of pretend it to be like a deck of cards of sorts. Basically, you want to shuffle it really good, just to make sure that it's pretty random whenever you start. Because these are what you're going to draw off of whenever you are doing an action each round. Now, once we've done that, the boards themselves, we'll kind of go over some details as far as how the boards are set up. You're going to have 3 dispensing actions every round. You're going to have 3 actions per round, and then you have a modified map, and we're going to go over what all these steps are. And then also you're going to have a gameplay. This particular area here is to specify what actions are going to be coming up. It's a very useful tool to make sure that you know what things are going to be coming up as they progress through the game. For example, you know that the first thing that happens each round is a change round, which that does not happen in the first round, but it does list it as like the first action or the first phase that happens. Then manipulation, which will be the second phase. At that point you will dispense, and it'll keep going down the list until you're finished. And then at that point it resets, and then you do the next round. Now you're going to have the action sheet. And you should have one of these for each player. These go over the different types of actions that you could get by using these randomly, or if you get any of these. But you'll use these particular tiles as well, but you're not going to have any of those at the beginning of the game. But you will get to use these actions as well when you are using these randomly chosen ones. So, what we're going to do is start going over a turn. In the first round, we are going to skip the change round, which is mostly to change who the first player is, and then it also flips over one of these tiles here. So we're starting in round 1, so this one's already flipped over. You'll also have the manipulation phase. The manipulation phase is whoever has the lowest victory points is going to roll these dice here. With the dice, it allows you to switch a couple things. So in this case, I rolled a wind, so it's one of these, and a grass, which is one of those. Now, if there were any kind of red, or these disc here on the board, you'd be allowed to switch them. You, however, cannot switch any of the white ones. So unfortunately, this doesn't really do much good unless there are these discs on it. So if you don't roll anything that allows you to modify those, then manipulation sometimes doesn't do anything if you have nothing to put on there. But this is usually rolled by the person that's currently doing the worst in the round. Usually to go off victory points first, and then there's a few other tiebreakers as well, if needed. But that's manipulation. Dispense. So the very next round will be the dispense phase. You will do all 3 dispense actions first. So let's say with the yellow player, you're going to reveal the first disc. In this case, they reveal the grass. They have to dispense 3 cubes if they are in a 2-player game. If they are in a 3 or 4-player game, they would dispense 4. But since we're in a 2-player game, we're going to dispense 3. Now, since we drew a grass icon here, we can place these 3 cubes, and they all have to be in the same place. You can place them anywhere that's adjacent to a grass icon. Now with grass, it's in all these spaces, as well as this one. So we could actually place this anywhere on the board right now. But we're going to go ahead and drop this here. They're going to grab their next dispense icon. At this point, they drew a wind icon. The wind icon is currently here. They're going to dispense 2 cubes. We're going to drop those there. The third dispense action is going to be the weed. So the weed icon, we will now drop one cube that's adjacent to it. Since I already put cubes here, I'm going to go ahead and probably just put them down here. Now the green is going to do all of their dispense actions as well. They drew a water, so they're going to take three cubes, and this is the current water icon that they have. So we're going to drop three. We're going to drop three there. We will draw another one. This particular one is the seedling. We're going to drop two cubes next to the seedling, so it's going to drop one there. And lastly, we drew a weed, so we're going to drop one more cube in this space here. And that's the dispense action. So that's going to be part of phase 3. Now we're going to move over to phase 4. And with phase 4, you can do a very similar thing, but it's going to go back and forth. So for example, I will play one action on yellow, I'll play one action on green, play a second action on yellow, second action on green, third action on yellow, third action on green. So you'll go back and forth until all three actions are taken. With these actions, you have to do all of the steps in the action, or none of them at all. So you can't just take part of the action and then not do the rest of it. So whenever you do one of these actions, you do have to make sure that you do all of it at the same time. And we're going to go over the actions themselves as compared to playing the actions right now. But let's say if you were to draw grass. If you do grass, the sheet here is going to tell you that you are going to take a combat action. Now how combat actions work, and for demonstration purposes I'm going to put another cube on the board here. We'll take it off after this, but let's say I drew the combat action as yellow. The first thing that will happen is that yellow can take a cube from all opponents. They'll take one cube from each opponent and remove it from the game. This does not go back to your supply. It's removed from the rest of the game and you can no longer get that back. And then they can choose to continue the combat. If they choose to continue the combat, they're going to remove one cube from all players at the space, and they can keep doing that until they run out of cubes themselves. So let's say in this case, they're going to remove one yellow and one green. So now at this point we have 3 cubes that are removed from the game. There are no more opponents' cubes at this location, so at that point they're going to stop. So that's what a combat action would be. The weed action, remove one player cube from a tile, then move one of your player cubes to an adjacent tile. So let's say green did that. So they're going to remove one cube from someone. Let's say they remove one cube from number 5, this location here. Then at that point they move one of your player cubes to an adjacent tile. So at that point I can move one of my cubes to something adjacent. It does not have to be at the same location. So as I mentioned, you could take one cube from one location and then still move another at another location. But you do have to do all those actions at the same time. It is something that you have to fulfill all parts of the action. The next one is the seedling. Place a player cube in any legal tile, then score any eligible tile for a minority. Now how this works is, first off, you can place a cube in any space that you're allowed to put if it's legally able to be put a cube, that you're legally able to put a cube in. The reason why you can't put it in any space is currently the conflict area in the center could not actually have a cube put there. Now later on this rule may change due to an icon that's usually below one of these. But first off, I would put a cube down. I'll go ahead and put it in this one. And then at that point I can choose another space to score minority. Now how minority works is that the winner takes they'll basically choose a legal space where there is a minority and a majority, or if they're the only person at that location. So let's say if yellow were to score minority, since they're the only one at this location, they're going to get victory points. You have to be adjacent to a weed. So like in this case you have a weed here. So these are the only two that are currently eligible for being scored for minority. So what they could do is score this one currently, since green did this particular action. And if green did that, they're going to be adjacent to a weed. And then at that point you count how many grass are also adjacent to it. So in this case there's one grass here, one grass here. It's going to be worth 2 victory points. So let's say if green did that, they get to move on this tracker up to 2 points. The next thing will be the wind. Move one of your player cubes to an adjacent tile. Then you do that 3 different times. So let's say currently we want to move 3 different cubes. It doesn't have to be different cubes, but you can actually move the same cube multiple times. But you have to move 3 spaces as far as that goes. So let's say if I moved one of these here, one of these here, and let's move one of these here. That would be doing wind. So as I said, it's moving 3 of your cubes to different locations. Then there's the foot. If you play the foot, you place a new tile. The tiles are these big spaces here. Now when you place the tile down, let's say if I dropped this one here, you're going to get 2 victory points for each adjacent tile. So right now we have 2 adjacent tiles. You're going to get 4 victory points for placing that. And then the same, if you were to place this, say here, you're going to get another 4 points. Well, let's say if you placed it here, you would get 6 because there are 3 adjacent. But that would be what happens if you played the foot action. The last one is the water action. You move an opponent's player cube to an adjacent tile, and then you do this twice. So let's say if I moved... part of the foot action that I forgot to mention is when you place the tile itself, you'll also place one of your cubes. So let's say the green played this particular tile. Well, actually I'll put it down as yellow. So yellow played this particular action. They would also place one of their tokens there, just to annotate that they've fulfilled the foot action on there. So we'll go to the last action, which is the water action. Move an opponent's player cube to an adjacent tile, and then you do this 2 times. After you do that, you reward any valid tile for majority. So I can move 2 of my opponent's cubes here. So let's say I'm going to move this one for 1, move this one as my second. At this point we're going to score for majority. You'll look at all the places that you're eligible to do that. Whoever has the most tiles, the most plans on their location is going to get the majority reward. What the majority reward is, these particular tokens have the most. And whenever you have the most, what you can do is choose one of the adjacent circles here and actually take the red one that corresponds with that. So let's say I scored the majority here. I can then take a grass, which is a combat action. I could take a wind, which helps you move around a lot of stuff. So that's the wind, the grass. There's another grass here, so I can't do that again. And you can also grab a weed action. The weed action is the one that allows you to remove one of the cubes from a tile and move one of your player cubes to an adjacent tile. So it basically takes 1 cube off from your opponent and then lets you place one of the cubes on. So let's say they wanted to take, I don't know, grass for a combat action. They could then put it into their area here, and we'll kind of explain what that does as well. And then this is going to be the different actions you have. So you'll keep playing those actions until you have 3 actions each. So at this point we're going to do a quick playthrough of those 3 actions for each player. So the first action for yellow is going to be the feet. I'm going to do a quick reset on the board here. So 3, 2, 1. We'll grab one here. Yeah, it was probably something close to that. Alright, so we're going to do kind of so that's basically our sort of reset here. So the first thing we're going to do is yellow drew the feet. So what they're going to do is the foot action. They get to drop a random tile down wherever they would like, and then they put one of their cubes on it. So let's say they dropped the desert region here. At this point they're going to drop 1 cube to represent that they've dropped that as well. At that point they're going to score 4 victory points for dropping the tile. Now green is also going to drop their first action, and it is a combat action. So that has to be in a space that they themselves have cubes as well as an opponent. So what they're able to do is take 1 cube off of yellow and remove it from the game. They could choose to wipe out 1 of each of their cubes, but if they do that, then yellow's going to be the only one with a cube there, so they're probably going to hold off on that this round. So that was their action. Yellow's now going to reveal their next action. The yellow revealed a seedling. You place a player cube into any legal tile, so they can place 1 cube wherever they want. Let's see. So we're going to go and drop 1 here. And then from there, then they can score an eligible tile for minority. So what they're probably going to do is choose this one because they're the only person that's there, and it's also a legal tile. So at this point they're going to get 2 victory points because there are 2 grass and it's adjacent to a weed. So that brings yellow up to 6. Next is a wind by green. With the wind, you can choose 3 cubes and move them around as long as they're your cubes. So at this point, we'll probably move 1 of these here, 1 of these here. Actually, we're going to move 1 of those there. Let's go and move this over here. So at that point, we did the wind action. We're going to go back to yellow. At this point, it's going to be a water action. With a water action, you move an opponent's cube to an adjacent tile. Do this 2 times, then you reward for majority. So let's say there's a lot of different places we can easily score majority on with yellow. They have majority here, they have majority here. They do not have majority here. So what I could do is move 1 and 2. And then you can choose to score majority wherever you want, depending on what kind of action you're looking to obtain on it. So let's say if you wanted to get, the foot icon, the wind icon, the seedling, or something like that. Or you can also grab the grass icons here. But depending on what kind of icons you're looking to obtain, depending on your strategy, you could go with different actions here. So let's say they scored the majority on this one, and they're going to go ahead and take 1 of these seedlings here. So they now have 1 of those as well. Now lastly, green is going to do their last action, which is another foot icon. And let's go ahead and drop that. Actually, we're going to go ahead and drop it down here. kind of already have some green icons in the area here, so there might be a good idea. And at that point, green also drops a cube on it because they placed it. That is going to be the 3 actions for each player. And then at this point, we're going to modify map. Now with the map modification, you're going to either play one of the cubes you have, well, the circles you have here, or you're going to draw another one from your stack. You're going to play one of these from your stack here as well. In this case, they drew a grass. The grass itself, you will take from the supply here, and then you can place it somewhere on the map itself. As long as there is a place to place it, you'll have to put it on one of the corners of these hexagon tiles here. For example, if I placed it here, this will add a few more points because now it'll be at 3 victory points if this one's scored for minority. Or I could place it down here if I want to maybe come towards this location later, but it also will add points on this side as well since it'll, since the wheat is here as well. Or I could just place it somewhere completely different that may not be scoring currently but may score in the future. But let's go ahead and drop it here. Green is also going to do the same, and they also get a grass icon. So they're going to take one from the supply as well. And they're going to drop it a little bit away from this because right now they're not particularly scoring very well here. But they're probably going to just plan the idea that maybe in the future they might be able to pull one of these weeds to another location. Alright, so at this point we have the modify map phase here. So that's been completed. At this point we're going to go through the map and we're going to score for minority. This is going to be phase 6. On phase 6 you're going to go through all locations that can currently score, and you're going to score for the minority on that. So at this particular location, minority is on green. They're going to get victory points equal to the number of grass. So right now they're going to get 2 victory points. There is no minority here because they're both at 1, which means they're tied. Neither player scores. This one, they're the only one at the location, so they're going to score minority as well. And this is going to net them 1 victory point because there's 1 grass adjacent to the same space with a wheat on it. Be the scoring for all the minority locations. At that point, you're now going to score for the majority. Now for the majority, you're going to go through and score for any, well, not score points, but you're going to get these tiles here equal to whoever has the majority of those locations. So let's start from the top going to the bottom. In this particular case, they're only adjacent to grass, so they can only grab a grass icon. So that goes to green. This one is controlled by green because they have the majority here. They can either grab a water icon or a grass icon, so they're going to grab a water. This one, they're the only one there. They're going to have a majority. They can grab a seedling, a water, or a grass. Let's go and give them a seedling as well. This one is majority with yellow. They can grab a wind, a seedling, or a grass. They don't have a wind yet, so we'll take a wind. Yellow is majority here as well, so they can take a wind, a weed, or a grass. In this case, they're going to go ahead and take a weed. No one has majority here, and then they have majority here, so they can go ahead and take, let's say, a grass. So that's scoring majority. So at that point, we're going to go to the balance phase. Now this is where the numbers on top are relevant, because the numbers on the top are going to annotate how many squares can currently be in these spaces. Right now there can only be 2 in the desert, 5 in the marsh region, 4 in the forest, 6 in tropical, 5 in the marsh, 4 here, and 1 in the polar region. The only one that actually breaks that number is currently the polar region. And how this is going to work, each player will remove 1 cube from it until it goes under the number or equal to the number that's on here. So in this case, both players have to remove one cube. This particular cube goes back to your supply. In most other cases, cubes are going to be removed from the game. In this particular scenario though, these actually go back to your supply whenever they are removed from the game. Sorry, whenever they're removed from the tile itself during the balance action. Then lastly, you have the cleanup phase. What you're going to do is take all these tiles that you use for dispensing and for actions and modify map, and you're going to put them back into your stack. And then you're supposed to make sure that they're nice and shuffled back up, because these are going to be used for the next round as well. If you use any of these cubes, or sorry, these the red circles here, then you're going to get rid of those if they were ever used as a action or dispense. You're going to see a little bit more of that in round 2. The reason you didn't see that in round 1 is because you don't actually have these during most of those actions. You could obtain them, but you generally won't have them round 1. Nice and mixed up. Now it's going to go back into the first phase. Now before the first phase happens, it's going to switch who the first player is. Yellow was first player last round. Green is going to be first player this round. Now, what we're going to do from here is they're going to go through their 3 dispense actions. So green can do one of 2 things here. They can either take one off the stack, or they can use one of their tokens here. These are the ones that they obtained through the when they were doing the majority earlier. So they're going to go ahead and just take one off the top. And because it's 2-player, they're going to drop 3 cubes. Now this one there is going to be adjacent to the wind here. They're going to drop 3 cubes. So what they're probably going to do is just drop it here. Yeah, sorry. Green's going to do another. And they have to drop it next to a weed. This will be 2 cubes. So let's go ahead and drop those here. Then the third dispense is going to be a seedling. They're going to drop 1 cube. The seedling is currently here. So we can go ahead and drop it. Probably just go ahead and drop it in there. Or we can actually just drop it here just to kind of block them. They are now going to do their 3 dispense actions. So adjacent to the water, so water's here, they're going to place 3 cubes in one of those 2 spaces. So we'll drop those there. Then we're going to drop 2 cubes anywhere adjacent to grass. Oh, sorry, I did forget one step. During the change round, the first phase, you're also going to flip over the next location here. This particular one says 2x. This is going to be equal to 2 grass as far as point counting goes. So anywhere that's adjacent to this and weed, the weed icon, is going to make this worth 2 victory points. And then also you have like this one and this one here, which makes this a little bit better of a scoring area now. But we went ahead and dropped the 2 cubes on it. And then 1 more cube for yellow. Which we'll be able to put anywhere that's adjacent to grass. We're going to now start off with actions. Now I can do one of 2 options here. I can either use my things here to do a specific action, if I currently have it. So let's say if I wanted to use a combat action, I can go ahead and drop the grass here. Or I have a water icon. I can go ahead and drop the water icon there, and it'll use that. Alternatively, I can also pick one off the stack. If I pick one off the stack, I don't know what it'll be. So this helps a little bit with strategy if I pick up the right ones when I score majority. Or I can just kind of randomize it and not actually use those up. So let's say if I were to go ahead and just flip random, In this case I got a foot icon. I can go ahead and drop a tile. And basically this is going to proceed on and on. In this case, they'll do action 1, action 2, action 2, and then 3 and 3. And then that's going to keep going on and on until your 6 rounds are up. So, like, let's say they did all their actions, they modified map. Then at that point you score majority. Sorry, first you score minority, then you score majority. Then you rebalance all the tiles, and then you do the cleanup phase again. Once you go to the change round, the first player will change. You'll then flip over another one of these, and then you'll proceed again with dispense, the actions, and then a modified map. And this is going to keep going back and forth. You can do this over 6 rounds. So as I mentioned, this is the first round, second round, third round. In this case, it is another 3x. So like right now, if this were to score minority, you have a 3x and a 2x as far as grass goes, and it's still adjacent to the wheat here. So if this tile here scores, it's worth 5 victory points, which is pretty big. But let's say it went to the 4th round, there's another grass. 5th round, there are a couple special ones. Like this one is actually a weed, so this actually count as a weed for purpose of the scoring as well. So unfortunately still cannot lay currently in the middle tile, but it does help change some of the outer tile stuff. So like in this case, this tile here became a little bit more important now, because it now has a weed next to it, and it has a weed next to it. So it might make these a little bit more contested as well. Then lastly, there is a grass here that has a key in it. Now what the key does is it unlocks the center tile here. You can now place cubes within the center tile. Now since these are random, you're not always going to pull a key, you're not always going to pull a weed. So this could do really well in some cases, or may not do very well at all. Because let's say if maybe round 2, the key itself appeared, but then you never actually got a weed. This may not make this worth any points itself, but it does make it a huge war zone effectively. A limit to the center square here. So you could actually have a ton of cubes here if you wanted to. During the balance, there's actually no balance. That's basically just repeat those 9 phases. Pretty much as I mentioned, you're going to go through the change round. That's primarily going to focus on switching the player, as well as revealing the next center tile here, as basically your turn counter. And then once you do that, it's the manipulation phase. Then you would do that as well. The dispense phase, that's the part where you're dropping all the cubes. Each player will do their 3 dispenses, and then go to the other 3. At that point, you'll do the action phase, depending on who the first player is. They're going to do their first action. The first action of each of the other players are going to do theirs. Then it does a round of second action. Then it does a round of third action. And that's the phase 4 there. Phase 5 is you modify the map. You go ahead and modify it according to which token was put on there. And also remember you can use these little red circles as well to make sure that you know what you're going to be able to throw onto the map. At that point you score minority, score majority, then you bounce the tiles, and then you clean up. You wipe off your board, shuffle them up, put them back in your stack, discard any red things here used, and then from there you just keep rinsing and repeating. And the good thing too is the book itself is actually very well laid out. It's actually very well done as far as rules go. It's actually much better written than some of the actual full-fledged games that I got that you might buy from the store itself, that sometimes just have really bad spelling errors and things like that. This is actually a really done book as well so far. He has mentioned that he's going to work on a couple small minor things, but for the most part, well done. It's, as I mentioned, it's supposed to be a very abstract game. A lot of board control, like area control. And there's definitely a bit of a deeper strategy because you kind of have to make sure that you get the right kind of tiles. And getting the right kind of tiles, you can then use that to kind of further a particular strategy. You might do a lot of like combat actions to continue to kill off the cubes because those are removed from the game. You're going to gradually lose what you can place on the board. Another rule that's on it, which you'll see on your card here, is that for any cube that you cannot dispense, you're going to lose 1 victory point. So let's say if I wiped out my entire supply, somehow, just a bad couple rounds, you wipe out all your supply here. What's going to happen is when you go to dispense, you still have to dispense 3 at the first dispense, you still have to dispense 2 on the second dispense, and you have to do the third as the third dispense. So, if you don't have the cubes to dispense, you're going to lose 1 victory point for each that you cannot dispense, which is going to be very, very painful. So, and it is definitely possible because the first player test that I did, one of the players did actually run out of cubes, and it did sort of hurt them negatively as far as that goes. So definitely, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to it if you go into strategize how to play the game a little bit more. You're going to learn probably different strategies and different ways to deal with each other on the board, as well as maybe which of these red ones might be more effective to use during certain times, because a lot of it's going to be more about timing as well. But that's my video of Conflict of Plants. Definitely if it gets kickstarted, you should definitely check it out. Otherwise, it might show up with one of the big game companies as well. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching Rundlii Gaming, and you have a good day.